They tell a story. If the story actually happened, I don't know. But the Vart, Musahaskel, the Vart, the insight of the story is quite authentic. There was a chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek who was traveling, and he ended up in the home of a man. This man was what they would call in those days a maskil. Maskil meant he came from the Enlightenment, and a lot of people in that movement had very deep issues with Chassidim and Rebbes, with Frumme Yidden, with religious Jews. There was a Kulturkampf, there was a culture war. This man made a little feast or party in his home, and this chassid of the Tzemach Tzedek was there. And the man starts talking about Tzemach Tzedek and other Rebbes, and he basically explains that they're all money hungry. And they have these chassidim who are gullible, and they come and they give kvitlach, they give their notes with requests, and the main thing is they give money. And this is a way of scamming people with money, by having them believe that by giving you money, you're going to be able to help them. And he started to talk about some big, some really great people. The chassid was sitting there. No. So somebody asked him, what do you say? What is your opinion? So he responded and he said that what I just heard from the host reminds me of what happened between my grandmother and her cow. He said, what happened between your grandmother and her cow? My grandmother had a beloved cow, and they had a very close connection. The cow was faithful to my grandmother. My grandmother was faithful to give the cow all of its needs. The cow gave milk, and my grandmother gave it whatever it needed to be able to sustain itself and maintain a very comfortable life in her field, in her territory, in her estate. And then one day, everything exploded. The relationship went down south and became completely sour. What happened? So I'll tell you what happened. My grandmother had a custom. Mitzvah Shabbos, a cow, before she goes to sleep at night, she needs to drink water. So every night she would drink regular water. But Mitzvah Shabbos, my grandmother would clean the pots and pans of the Shabbos meals. And she would fill the pots and pans with water. And this was the cholent pot, and the kugel pot, and the rice pot, the chicken pot, and the potato pot. So that water wasn't just water. It was water that had in it all the schmaltz and all the residue of the cholent. The last beans, and the last pieces of potato, and the last pieces of meat. It wasn't just stam clean water. It was gewaldige water, because it had in it all the black, burnt leftovers of the kugel that's on the bottom of the pot got mixed into the water. And this, instead of pouring out the water, my grandmother would give and put into the trough for the cow to drink. Mitzvah Shabbos, this was Saturday night, Malava Malka, Saturday night Shvat. And a whole week the cow would look forward to this geschmacke, tasty, delightful, extraordinary, paradise-like water that would generate such joy and anticipation and ecstasy in the brain of the cow. And a whole week the cow would anticipate it, and it would come Mitzvah Shabbos, and my grandmother would bring out this water that was saturated with all the foods of Shabbos, and the cow would indulge and enjoy every moment. One day, Mitzvah Shabbos fell out on Yom Tov. Mitzvah Shabbos went into Yom Tov. And my grandmother was busy, in the kitchen. You have to cook a new meal. And she forgot. So by mistake, by error, she poured out the water that was filling the dirty dishes. The cow has to go to sleep. The cow needs water. So my grandmother brought the cow clean water. Water straight from the well. In the yard we had a well. She filled up, she drew water from the well, sparkling, clean water. She gave it to the cow. It's Mitzvah Shabbos. The cow didn't know that it goes into Yom Tov for whatever reason. Nobody sent the cow the memo that it's Hamavdil being Kodesh l'Kodesh, Yak Nahaz. Yeah? Nobody sent it the memo. The cow was expecting the good water. Instead, it gets sparkling, clean, fresh water. The cow puts its head down with his slavos, with passion, to drink the water. Abrach. Sadly, unfortunately, it's clean water. And the cow starts thinking, Man nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halaylos. Why is this Mitzvah Shabbos different than all other Mitzvah Shabbos? What happened? What happened? And the cow thinks and contemplates and goes into a meditation and goes into a trance and does some mindful work and does all these things. And finally, the cow reaches the conclusion that my grandmother was jealous. All these years, my grandmother was feeling horrible jealousy to the cow that she gets the water that has in it the residue of the cholent and the kugel and the kishke and the chicken. But all these years, she controlled her jealousy. Finally, now, she couldn't control her jealousy. Geplatzt. The jealousy had geplatzt. It overtook her. It overwhelmed her. She couldn't deal with it, and she took the water for herself. And the cow starts thinking, what a menuvelas. What a disgusting, narcissistic, selfish lady. I work day and night for her. Ich hab mich kein Tag, ich hab mich kein Nacht. I sweat for her. I have frostbite for her. I work for her. I give her milk every day. I support her. I nurture her. And you can't find such loyalty in the world. And how does she pay me back? She pays me back by stealing this only treat that I have in life. Finally, there's one simcha, one joy I have in life, the Mitzvah Shabbos dike cholent water. And she gives me clean, sparkling water, and she takes it for herself. And this Yid says, and from that day on, the relationship went sour. The cow never looked at my grandmother again. Never said a word to her. They became estranged and alienated for the rest of their lives. A good, powerful, warm closeness was severed at that moment because of my grandmother's jealousy in the perception of the cow. He looks up at this Jew and he says, I can't expect anything else from a cow. In the cow's mindset, the peak of life is cholent water with black little pieces that float. You know that water, Mitzvah Shabbos? You also like it. Du machst das so, ja, ganze Zeit. And who do you give the water to? Your cow. Good.
It tastes so good.
It's geschmack, huh? He's already going to do it, Mitzvah Shabbos. He looks at the person and he says, I can't expect anything from the cow. In the paradigm, in the mindset of the cow, this is the peak of pleasure. And when the water is not there, there's only one choice. The other person took it. Go explain to the cow that it's not making a mistake. It's a wrong cheshbon. As a behemoth. As a tracht wie a behemoth. The cow's entire paradigm, entire reality, entire orbit of experience is one that is reduced to the imagination of a cow who loves cholent water, and that is what it lives for. So he says, for you, money is everything. You don't understand. For you, money is everything. You can't even imagine that there's a person for whom money doesn't mean that much. It's not part of your imagination. It's not your fault. When you hear Akvittel, Rebbe, Tzedakah, money, right away, he's manipulating. Because we look at the world from our own prism. The way I define you is the way I define me. There's no way of defining reality if it's not contrasted to your own reality. I don't know what up is if I don't know what down is. I don't know what down is if I don't know what up is. There's no right without left. There's no left without right. And the more up, the more down. I can't know you if I don't know I. That's how all judgment is. For you, this is your conception of reality. It's hard for you to imagine that there's something called innocence, purity, a real person. You can't imagine. It doesn't exist. You and my grandmother's cow have something in common. And I understand both of you very, very well. Huh? Yeah. They say the Pshalom Shvadron, you remember? The Maggid of Yerushalayim, Reb Shalom Mordechai Shvadron, once told a story. He said, a boy, a yeshiva boy, came to me. And he said, life is so unfair. There's so much responsibility. I wish I would have been a behemoth, I would have been a cow. I wouldn't have to eat with a fork, with a knife, with a spoon. I wouldn't have to use cutlery. I wouldn't have to look for a bathroom when I need to tend to my needs. I wouldn't have to get dressed in the morning. Never mind Shachris, Minche, Ma'ariv, Shabbos, Yom Tov, Muktzos, V'Yisayim, Pesach, Chametz, Tu B'Shvat, Purim, Megillah. Please. Life is so full of pressure and stress to be a human being, to be a Jew. I wish I could have been a cow, a behemoth. And he says the boy starts sobbing. And he looks up to heaven and he says, Ribono shel olam, fa'avos hast minish gemacht a behemoth. Why didn't you create me? Lech l'uman shasani. God, why didn't you create me as a behemoth? So Reb Shalom Mordechai Shvadron in his classical Yerushalmi Yiddish says, so I told the yeshiva boy, I'll say in Yiddish and then translate, Bacher, du hast nicht was zu weinen, du bist a behemoth. My dear boy, you got nothing to cry for. You are a behemoth. You have nothing to cry for.